Hey, what's up, people? This is episode 179 of the Option Podcast. Could be 179. That guy looks like Joe Rich. What's up? That guy looks like the fish. That's John Kessel. And Todd Rogers is also on, joining us via the magic of Zoom. So the episode starts right now. What's up, boys?
How are you, big dog?
How you doing?
Nice.
Good to be here.
All right, so along with John Kessel and Todd Rogers, and along with Mark Fishman, the Dirty New Yorker, along with Joe Rich, I am Jason DeBeas. This is episode 179 of the podcast. John, do you remember what you were sharing before we got on the podcast? I asked you to hold that thought. It seemed important to the masses.
Yeah, our sport is played in 221 countries in the world, which is as many as football and stuff. It's this amazingly global sport, and most of the countries that play can't afford the sport at the six-man level. And what's beautiful about doubles, both in the United States and around the world, is that it only takes a couple of great dedicated kids, men or women, boys or girls, to represent their country even at the Olympic level. I'm thinking about, Todd, I think you had Latvia in your group, and you're never going to see a 6-on-6 Latvian program, but you can see a bronze medalist, if I'm not mistaken, from Latvia. And in the United States, club volleyball, especially 6-on-6, has gotten so expensive that what the beauty of doubles through the things that we're doing at Beach Nation, we've got Special Olympics that I'm doing. I'm doing it internationally as well. It's a 4-on-4 game. The three Special Olympians receive and hit, and the able-bodied coach setter does the heavy lifting, chasing down the shanks and then setting the ball. And then you've got World Paravolley, and Fish and Todd can tell you about the hard work they've been doing on that, where they're 3-on-3, and like the old standing volleyball for the disabled Paralympians in the game that we're hoping to see in Brisbane, is three disabled athletes who compete year round against all the doubles athletes. That's the way they do it in Australia and other countries. But again, diversity comes in because now you've got disabled, and it's all through the magic of 2-on-2 beach.
Remind me when the Brisbane Olympics is again. When is that?
The which Olympics? Sorry,
You said Brisbane. Brisbane. Is that Australia?
2032. The
32.
next
Nice.
4-year cycle after Los Angeles.
Got you. Oh, okay. So
Miami
Paralympics and Olympics are the same cycle, right? It's not like a separate entity.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, cool.
They happen about 10 days after. The village is the same. The venues are almost always the same. And they have about half the number of athletes, but they also happen to be blind or amputees, or the blind soccer and the blind goalball, and wheelchair tennis and wheelchair rugby. It's an amazing follow-up. And the disabled athletes indoor play sitting. The U.S. women won Tokyo gold as well as Rio gold. So our women's team is really, really strong. But in that spirit, I guess I'm just thinking that the beach teams that we've had include players that come from our sitting program who then put their prosthetic on and then play on the beach. And hey, doubles volleyball.
Yeah. Look, hey, I got my man sorry, I got Fish in the house. I wanted to ask him a question. So Fish, I can tell you one of the disadvantages of like indoor and beach or whatever. Like, if my car gets dirtier every time I go to a beach tournament, and indoor my car comes out a little bit cleaner. But that's where kind of the buck stops. I don't want to drive us off the steering cliff because John was onto a sweeter point. But can you tell my audience like some of the more advantages of just beach, doubles and fours, comparative in contrast to just indoor sixes?
I think there's a bunch of different advantages. In doubles, you need to be skilled at every aspect of the game. If you can't set your partner's going to get served every time and you're going to be making bad sets. If you can't hit, you're going to be getting every ball. So it really makes you a much more complete athlete, much more complete volleyball player. You touch the ball a lot more, you move a lot more. So I think it's got a lot of advantages. The other thing is that the six-man game has evolved. Six-person game has evolved to, if you're trying to play Division I indoor women's volleyball, if you're not over 6'1", there's a good chance you're going to have a very hard time playing. It's just gotten so big. Whereas I think Todd and Joe, who are coaching at the college level, can really talk about the opportunities for smaller athletes who are better athletes. Joe?
Certainly there's two different roles. You have technically the blocker position that tends to be more of that larger presence at the net, but the defender, as long as they can side out at a level to go against someone like that, then the height of the player doesn't necessarily matter. It certainly has to match with athleticism. You have to have the ability to some degree, but certainly don't need a 6'2" defender. You can have a 5'7" superior volleyball player, and they can have success.
But and Todd, do you want to talk about the growth of the beach game at all? Because it's the fastest growing Division I sport. It's the fastest growing sport in the United States, with possibly the exception of pickleball. But when you get away from those top 10 teams or 12 teams, I think there's a lot of opportunity for smaller players.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The beach game lends itself to being smaller in a lot of regards. The indoor game, the requirement is, as you mentioned, just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and the blocking presence at the net and the ability to hit the ball at a really high level because of that blocking presence at the net. That's just not the case on the sand, as we all know. It's 2-on-2, and there's got to be someone back there that can scramble and run down shots. Even if you got a huge blocker, you still have to have someone that can run and scramble, and that's most often, rather than less, going to be someone who's a 5'9" defender, even 5'5", 5'6" defenders. You aren't seeing too many of the April Rosses, even at the elite level, that are 6'1" defenders. You just don't see them very often. Most of our elite defenders, if I recall correctly, and we can discuss right now, Sarah Hughes, I think is 5'9", 5'10". Sarah Sponsel is about the same. Betsy Flint's 5'8", 5'9". You can just keep going down the road. Kristen Nuss is 5'7". You're not talking about 6-footers right there. You're talking about a lot of young ladies that are exceptional athletes, can move and play fantastic defense, and they're having great success. And we're seeing the same thing at the collegiate level.
Before I get to my next question, I definitely want to caveat by saying, Todd, that it's amazing when it comes down to like voting for MVP and most valuable player on the indoor scene and the outdoor scene. We're always expecting it to be some 7-foot mythological giant. At the end of the day, isn't it? Doesn't it still wind up being the normal sized person? Don't you guys find that intriguing? Or I know I'm not by myself on that, right? Like, you can make an argument that Kristen Nuss was MVP last year. I gave it to Kelly Chang, but like, if Kristen Nuss got it, no one felt like they got screwed.
Yeah, but that guy Dalhauser had it for a while.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Dalhauser ain't winning the female award unless one day he identifies as being a woman and then dominates the AVP forever. For how long? Forever. Todd, I'm glad I got you and Rich on the show, and I want to hold on to you guys as long as I can before you leave, but I want to address Beach Nation first. I wanted to have like this kind of roadmap from Beach Nation to, college eligible and stuff like this and that. So, since I got everyone in the room who's part of Beach Nation, I'm rocking LA Volleyball Club. Jason, I love you. Talk to me about some of the things that Beach Nation offers that you don't get with a lot of clubs. As you guys know, I was with Endless Summer for 5 years. Deron had something to offer, beach volleyball national events, getting there to showcases. Patty Dodd, Mike Dodd, I don't know what the hell they're doing in NBC, but I'm sure they're doing their thing, right?
Patty is one of the three founders of Beach Nation.
Yes, she is. I saw her on the list. But I was making reference to the clubs, like Elite and this and that. What does Beach Nation bring to the table that's I guess as far as a set, in addition to a set of unique skill sets, all of you guys are highly competent people. I mean, and I think that's an understatement. Give me one or two things that you feel that Beach Nation brings to the table that more effectively than the other clubs.
Well,
Yeah, how
let
do
me
you wanna
just
start?
jump in.
ahead.
We're not a club,
Oh, okay. You're a nation.
but we're not a club. And the reason we started Beach Nation was to be able to coach coaches and coach kids with our own proprietary curriculum, where we could take a look at how do we teach skills, not just run drills. How do we not just have kids compete and the best kids rise up? How do we teach coaches to coach beach when they haven't had a lot of experience in doing it, and be able to explain better techniques? And when you look at John Kessel, to me, he's one of the greatest catalysts for thoughts and education, if not the greatest, that the volleyball community has ever had. So being able to get John to come in and look at our curriculum, and have Patty and Todd create a curriculum and running the events. In fact, Todd, would you run with this a little bit? Why Beach Nation? Why did we start Beach Nation?
Well, we originally were thinking there was a real dearth of coaching education for beach. There was tons of indoors, but there really wasn't very much for beach at all out there. And so that was our first kind of original thought process. And then we also morphed that into coaching the kids as well. And so we would do clinics, literally coaching clinics in the classroom for coaches, and then have them come out with us on the beach and run a kids clinic as well, and help us run that. And they would literally be on a court with a college coach, because all the courts are usually by either a head or assistant coach. Literally there's on each court. And so they can sit there and they can listen to all of these great college coaches throughout the country and hear what they have to say, see how they run the drills, and then therefore become better coaches. And then we go back into the classroom for a second session and kind of go over what they saw, answer questions, as well as some curriculum stuff that we do. So that's kind of how it originally morphed. And now we have, all over the country, we have events and clinics, both for coaches and for kids. In a couple of weeks, Kessel and I will be in Denver, and possibly fit Mark as well. So doing exactly that, literally having a coaches clinic to start with, and then a kids clinic where all the coaches are going to be on a court working with these kids, kind of under our tutelage, and then back into the classroom. So it was an opportunity for us to kind of, one, educate, two, give back in a way as well. And then, for college coaches, it's a great way to be able to get out there and recruit and see a lot of the kids, as well as to hang out with your peers and kind of talk shop amongst ourselves as well. So we just got done with an event in San Antonio. We had 10 different college coaches there, one on each court. And it was good to just talk shop and kind of not only to have the kids see those coaches, but also to talk about what's going on in the world. So Beach Nation has been a real catalyst on multiple fronts. And now we're going obviously into the building brilliant futures, and Fishman's a little bit more versed in that. But that's a whole nother area that we're starting to touch into now, which Jason, you're very familiar with as well. You and Jason were talking about not that long ago.
Yeah. I mean, I can even go as far back as Duran Forbes for me. We had one coach for every four people, I mean, look, there are people who are great former players that become coaches, and there are people there's a mixture of everybody. But I thought Jaron Barreto was really good. I thought Pompeo is a very good drills coach. Or a skills coach. And Todd, there is something to be said about like that special attention. John, I want to get to you in a minute, but I wanted Rich's sentiment on this, because Rich doesn't just get to sit here and be quiet.
Joe Rich on the house.
Mark and Todd certainly covered a lot of things that established Beach Nation. I came in a little bit after they started it, but what really attracted me to it was having such a wealth of knowledge, but then all these wealth of knowledges work together to make themselves better. And I think that's where the key to Beach Nation is we're trying to establish, not only for the players, but for coaches, a environment where you can grow. the clinics as well as the coaching clinics, everything that we do and every idea we have, there's nothing set in stone. It's something that we're at this point and we can move forward with it. And that's probably the biggest thing I think Beach Nation offers, at least to me in the beginning, was an opportunity to become better as a coach and as a communicator and all these different functions. And I think obviously Todd and Mark really hit the highlights, so I don't have much to add on that area. But for me personally, I thought that's what Beach Nation is to me.
Okay, John, I have a question for you, but if there's a thought or something you'd like to add to that, go ahead.
Yeah, Joe, the soundbite that I hope your listeners hear, especially if they're past players thinking about giving back to the sport by, mentoring, if not even coaching, is that a rising tide lifts all boats. And that's really what Beach Nation, I think, does so well, is that it works, not selfishly in a silo to keep secrets in the silo, but shares the way Todd, hey, he's a gold medalist. He could be making money just for himself doing narrow focused things, but he's helping everybody in the United States and really around the world. So I really like that. And going back to what Todd and Fish were saying, to any parent or any player listening, Beach is an incredible avenue to become a successful indoor player, especially if you start young and do things like Misty and Karch used to do, which was play with your mom or play with your dad against adults, because your brain has to process this higher speed of adults. And then when you go back to playing teen volleyball, it's like, oh, this is pretty easy, because it is, you're not. But doubles volleyball allows you to play father-son, father-daughter. We got a huge Father's Day tournament in Vail in like 10 days where 100 teams are going to be playing father-son, father-daughter. What a great way to get on the sand. But the soundbite for the parent and the player, it's not how tall you are, it's how good you are. It's how good you are as a volleyball player. And Beach, as they noted, develops that all-rounded player that is so valuable at the collegiate level. Indoors included, not just beach, but indoors.
Yeah.
And,
yep.
Not how tall you are. And I want to say one last little thing, that the bronze medalist for Japan in the 2012 Olympics, alluding to this height thing, was 5'1".
That was amazing.
They couldn't keep her off the court.
Yeah. And they beat the Chinese, right?
6 rounds.
John, they beat the Chinese for the bronze, didn't they? I remember that.
Yeah, 5'1", and they, because it's not how tall you are, it's how good you are at reading and doing the things that Todd is so, world renowned at, because he's such an incredible all-around player of the game of volleyball with an incredibly high volleyball IQ. That's what doubles does for you. So
yeah,
that's.
So let me lay out Beach Nation a little bit. So Beach Nation has obviously John Kessel, Todd Rogers, Joe Rich, Patty Dodd, who was just recognized from USA Volleyball as being Coach of the Year.
Hold on, we got to recognize the fish. Recognize. Go ahead.
There's nothing to recognize against this crowd.
He's so humble. This is like me putting him on the spot.
We have Beth Van Fleet from Georgia State, who got Coach of the Year. We have Kristen Rohr, who just took a job, left GCU, and she's now the head coach at ASU, Coach of the Year. We have John Spara, who obviously leads our boys' side, the men's national team coach, and the UCLA men's coach, who just got Coach of the Year. So the people we have who are involved in developing Beach Nation, and I'm leaving out just a whole host, and if people want to see who we have, go to beachnation.net.
Right.
But you'll see we travel the country. So normally these kids would have to go to a national team tryout to get recognized and try to get onto these courts. So they go to an individual university event, and they spend a lot of money. Here they're being seen by national team coaches, national team scouts, Division I coaches from their own region that Todd helps put together. So it's such an opportunity, and you're not just on one court. You're being worked with by all the different coaches. So it's an opportunity to work intimately with these coaches and get feedback from these coaches. And again, have skill development, not just drill development. So we've we're bringing something of a whole different value with a lot more critical mass than these kids would ever get in San Antonio, in Ohio. We're going to Connecticut with Pat Ryan for the 4th year in a row this year. So we're doing things in New England. And Beach Nation, from the work we've been doing, we are now the beach education provider for the JVA, USA Volleyball, through the JVA, the AAU, and with Starlings Volleyball, which is got about 68 different clubs across the country for inner city kids.
Including New York, yeah.
So that's what we've created. And as we started to work on Beach Nation, and John was a real catalyst for this, was where should the vision go? Because we took a bunch of the national team members and we created a free series of videos of how to teach beach volleyball for Starlings. And we started doing that, and then John became available when he left USA Volleyball, and he started talking about para sports. When we had him starting to talk about para sports, Citibank said, hey, wait, we are the largest contributor to the Paralympics. How do we get involved? So John has been an incredible catalyst for para sports, and now we're doing work there. So what we've done is we've morphed Beach Nation, that still does camps and clinics, works with kids across the country. We have a evolving curriculum that we look at, and we continue to evolve and try to bring in best practices, better teaching technique. We challenge ourselves. We challenge conventional wisdom about how can we do it better. But now we've created something called Building Brilliant Futures, making opportunity possible.
I like it.
And it is about making opportunity possible, and it is about, so now we have Beth Van, we're doing 2 universities in the fall. We're going to use ASU, and we're going to use Georgia State, and we're going to be using the outreach of their academic programs into the inner city, combining academics with education departments to create a opportunity for these kids to come in, get tutored by the universities, be able to be trained by the athletes and the head coaches. We'll be giving them a ball, so we don't have to worry about the $80 volleyball. Right. We'll be making sure they get fed and they get something to drink, and it's a holistically healthy environment. And we're going to be working with kids from 5th to 8th grade, so we're at an age where we can actually have a positive outcome, because it's not just about finding the next Olympian, but it is about creating a virtuous cycle for these kids through sport and education to be able to create a better opportunity for people to achieve.
Yeah, well, it's definitely not about finding the next Olympian. After all, we're only going to have maybe 4, right? And we got the other thousands of people to worry about. So I totally got you on that. 3 important things I wanted to add to this before I pose the next question. And Mark, feel free to jump in and just ask Todd or whatever the questions. The thing that I found attractive about Beach Nation, because you were previously on the podcast and we talked a little bit about it, I really like that you have a coaching staff or people that are open to new ideas, right? There are coaches out there that think there's one way to do it, it's my way, and your way's wrong. Oh, angle passing, midline, it's like Grumpy Old Men Part 4, for Christ's sakes, all right?
That would be Kessel.
It was Kessel for a while, yeah. I met Kessel at the first time I met Kessel was at Hunter College. He was doing a coach's clinic for CUNY coaches, because CUNY coaches were rather thin. Those are just active players who were just trying to make extra money. And really, in that whole conference, at that time, John, there was only like one real coach. That was Justin Stack, or the Stack family at Baruch College, right? Right. I was one of those player coaches. I was the head coach at City College at that time. I was coaching at City College. I remember Chi DiMaggio. Her and I helped build City Tech from the ground up. You know, they didn't even have a club team. So there's a name from the past, a woman who reveres and respects you. I saw her in New Orleans last year, by the way. I went to New Orleans last year and the year before. But the second thing I liked, and this is a deal maker versus deal breaker for me, inclusiveness. Inclusiveness is big on the kids level. We can have a whole other conversation about adults, but to hell with adults. We ain't talking about them right now. But inclusiveness is so important. Allowing people who bring a particular skill set to be part of this gang. Allowing people who strengths play to your needs at a program, instead of referring to this good old boys club that eventually other people will figure out and catch up and pass you. So the appreciation I have for this group of people where one, like I said, open to new ideas, and two, being inclusive. John, this is inclusive as hell. You got Todd on the West Coast. You got the dirty New Yorker here from, you got Rich, who was
Chicago.
Chicago to Grand Canyon University, right? You were the assistant there for a little bit.
5 or 4 years.
Yeah, and a little bit, for a lot bit. Me and this guy sang karaoke every time we went to AAUs, and of course Todd, the professor before he was the professor. So I really that's not a question. That's just one of the things that, because we have an audience, we owe the audience what we all think what Beach Nations is about. That's what I think you guys are about, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. Mark,
I think we challenge each other with critical thinking. I think we're pretty good at critical thinking. I know we challenge conventional wisdom. We ask why an awful lot.
Yeah.
We have no problem taking good themes and challenging why are we doing it this way, not a different way.
Yep.
We took a look at somebody like Lucy Jones, who Cass, you introduced me to, and now the next generation over at Starlings, and we were able to bring in someone like Chrissy Jones or Patty Oresco Dodd.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the amount of people that have been involved in giving us what I would say is critical, constructive feedback. Sometimes a little bit more destructive than constructive, but generically I would say constructive feedback. But I really believe what we are built on is a desire to do better and to challenge conventional wisdom and find better ways to do things, how we run clinics for kids so they're more productive, so we can be a positive catalyst for kids so that they're learning. Even when they leave us, they're still taking those themes and they can apply them themselves. Mm-hmm. It's John talking about more touches, less talk. It's creating thematic effectiveness so that we actually can do common good. And it's not just through volleyball, it's also through life skills.
Yeah. Anytime you can go through a season, and you don't have one, yours is just all year round, right? But anytime you can go through a situation and a girl leaves, she goes home from practice or drills or whatever, and you guys look at each other and say, girls like that are the reason why I made this club or made this institution. That's a win. That's a win for volleyball. That's a win for sports. That's a win for building better minds. And very much like theater, John Kessel. Yeah, sometimes acting's not about writing or talking. It's about doing, An ounce of behavior is worth a pound of words.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I was going to say, you take a look at Cass's son, Cody,
mm-hmm.
who played at Princeton, was a wonderful player, continued to get bigger, stronger, played internationally. And he just wrote a book. And when you read his missives, when you look at the themes of how he motivates, I find Cody motivational. I find John motivational. He's a catalyst for thought.
Cody's cool too.
I find his son is actually a catalyst for my thought. So it really is about paying it forward.
Yeah. So Todd, this is a question for you and Rich. Todd is the head coach at Cal Poly. You Big West champ, Todd?
Not this year. We got second this year.
Right.
We were the previous three.
Did it come down to the last pair again?
No, it didn't actually.
Okay.
We were in Hawaii. It was a lot hotter, and
Yeah.
we kind of groveled through the losers bracket and weren't able to finish off Long Beach.
That's tough. I remember LMU did that in 2019. We would lose his bracket and had to beat Pepperdine twice to win. That was also a year that you and Hawaii were down to pair 5. I was calling court 4. I just had the honor, duty, and privilege of being there. So John, this is where I'm going with this, because everyone thinks like, what the hell's the guy talking about? But I'm going somewhere with this. The last 5 or 6 years, whatever number you want to put on that, since it's become an NCAA sport, all of the club sizes have tripled. I don't have the numbers with me, but it's become more of a business in this and that. So, Todd, with so many options in which to recruit, are some of the things you're teaching the Beach Nation kids or something college coaches are looking for as far as maybe not necessarily leadership, maybe that's a boys thing or a girls thing, but leadership, maturity, stability, just some of these things, like before, like back in the day, we had to recruit divas, and they were called divas because they were good, right? No, there's no such thing as a bad diva. They're called nothing, right? But with so many people to choose from, you don't really have to recruit that person anymore. So my question is, are some of the things you guys are teaching in relation to volleyball? Now, you can answer this on the volleyball thing or the other, and I think you know where I'm going with this, Todd. Are some of the things that you're teaching these kids or something college coaches will be looking for?
So usually in almost every single one of our clinics, we have a morning session, an afternoon session, and a lunch in between. And during that lunch is exactly what we actually talk about. We call it a recruiting 101. And it does touch on the volleyball side, how athletic are you, how you pass, serve, hit, etc. But one of the main themes that ultimately ends up coming out, and it does every single time, it's pushed a little bit by us, but hopefully one of the kids asks a poignant question about, what else do you coaches look for besides on court? Because one of the things we always talk about is, okay, are you the kid that's screaming at your mom to get you your water bottle right now? And I'm, as a coach, watching and recruiting going, do I really want to bring that kid in? Or you're screaming at your partner and you're treating her poorly, or you're just berating the ref over and over again every single play, which I know I have done that a few times myself. Yep. But like, these are the kinds of things we talk about. And okay, so if you want to get recruited and there's a really good player on the left-hand side, a really good player on the right-hand side, and playing wise, it's all kind of pretty equal. Yet the one gal on the left is treating her partner really well, and saying please and thank you to mom, and hey, shaking the hands of the referees and the other team after the end of the game, and the other gal is doing all of the opposite things. Guess who we're going to take? It's pretty, to me, it's a no-brainer. I want gals that, one, want to be at Cal Poly, two, are good people, three, are good in the classroom, and of course are good beach volleyball players as well. But those other pieces do tie in, and we try and stress that and say, look, there's more and more of you out there, which means the skill levels of everyone is going up, and there's always going to be a few elite, super special gals. But when it comes down to kind of right after that level, there's a lot of gals. What differentiates you? And that's one of the areas that we encourage them at Beach Nation. Actually, differentiate yourself by saying thank you, saying please. And every single time I coach at Beach Nation, I'm always amazed at how many of the gals, and it's not all of them, but how many of them hear that and then actually come up after I've done a court or whatever, and hey coach, thank you so much, I learned. And literally they'll tell me something that we were talking about. I'm like, awesome, that's great to hear that. And then follow up with an email. Like, that differentiates them and makes them, oh, okay, and it makes me remember them because of that. So yes, to answer your question, you teed it up nicely for me. I appreciate that. And that is super important part of the recruiting process.
Well, it sounded like we were talking about Chrissy Jones, right? The type of person you were talking about. Shake hands, respectful, this, that. She came on the podcast. She was episode 83, and I'm like, wow. I'm like, this is the kind of girl that walks into a room and like men stand up, and she goes, no, that's okay. like you don't have to do that. Rich, something you wanted to add to what Todd was looking for? I know, and then Fish. Sorry, guys.
Certainly. It's always fun to follow Todd because he's usually pretty thorough and he covers all the bases.
You just got M&Ms from 8 Mile.
That's okay.
He said everything you're supposed to say.
But I'll add kind of my perspective on it. I put things, as Todd would eloquently say, in buckets. As a college coach, we have to look at the player, of course, but that is its separate bucket. We're looking at the student. What kind of person and how are they going to do academically at the school? What kind of person are they? So their personality, which then connects to like team cohesion, which is such an important part of the college women's game. And then do they have any other things that they do? Do they have other things that they can rely on when things are not working out? But if you put all your eggs in one basket, then if you're having trouble in that area, you have nothing else to draw from. Right. So it's just understanding we'd like a more complete person, and we're looking for a more complete person, not the best volleyball player.
Todd is really good at sniffing that out, since I still got you on camera. Like, Todd will look at a girl and how the girl treats him, and then he might stick around for an hour and is like, wait, how's she treating her club coach? that doesn't have like my name? Is she treating that person the same? Is she like F that dude, but Todd, I got to show respect to, whatever, and this and that. So there is something thorough about what we're looking for, what you're looking for. And I'm really glad Beach Nation is just doing that other. Go ahead, Mark.
I was going to say that when you're Todd Rogers, you're an Olympic gold medalist, you've done all these amazing things. In the volleyball community, people are going to treat you differently. And he's deserved that right to be treated differently.
Well, he deserves it as a coach now. I mean, I'm a New Yorker because to me that means all that means something.
Yeah,
what does that mean as a coach? Todd showed that.
Yeah, no, he's the professor is pretty darn good. John Kessel, same thing.
Yep.
We go someplace and people go, "Oh my gosh, that's John Kessel." Usually it's, "Hey, Mark, can you grab the door?" I'm fine with that. So Todd is hyper aware, not of how people treat him. And look, he's my best friend, so I've seen this over a long period of time. He's hyper aware of how people treat other people as well. So are you just being nice to me, or is this actually who you are? And I think that's something that we hyper focus on because, there's no accounting for people's bad manners.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, I think generically all of us are in a position where we can kind of exclude some of the toxicity. So you can bring it, but we don't have to accept it. And we've worked very hard to create a culture at Beach Nation where we reject that culture and we work on positivity, constructive criticism. Again, skills, not drills. So when you leave, you will have left a cocoon of positivity and constructiveness, not we're here to run drills and take your money.
Yeah, for skills and drills, I've never seen any championship team that existed without one or the other, but I do appreciate the balance of skills because there are just mindless reps. And I think if we're going to coach at a higher level, we owe it to ourselves to always examine the why. So in case the kids ask the why, we give them answers and they look us in the eye and they actually believe us. Yeah, Todd's a mensch. We mentioned that, the term mensch. Is John Kessel a mensch? Tell him what a mensch means.
A mensch is a Yiddish word for somebody who does good for other people for no other reason than he's there to do good.
It's true something for nothing.
Yep.
And I don't know. I met Todd. I thought he was from New York. You could have been from the Bronx, Todd.
But again, when you look at the Beach Nation coaches,
mm-hmm. Yeah,
I don't think there's any one of them you can look at and say Beth Van Fleet.
John Kessel. What are you talking about?
John Kessel,
No,
Joe, Kristen Rory. You look at this group of people, and they're people you want to be around.
Yeah,
and they're winners, and they're winners when they played. They're winners when they went to school. Everything they've done in their life, if they're competing, they're there to win, and they do it in a nice way. It's pretty cool.
All right. Speaking of pretty cool, let me ask you a small talk question. I want each of the four of you to. Of all the places you visited to do the clinics and juniors, I want you to give me one place that you just liked. You enjoyed the environment, you enjoyed the food. Rich, you go first.
Actually, my first Beach Nation clinic was up in Dekine. It was my first time actually in the area.
Henneman land.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I got to work with Todd and a bunch of great coaches, but I just thought, for me, I'd never been to that beach and how Beach Nation had run before, and it was just a truly amazing experience. And also from a person that didn't really know Todd that well, how open he was to communication, because we had spoke around that time when I think it was my first year. I had a lot of ideas, and I still do. I don't have a shortage of those, but he was someone that would listen and he would take value, but then also lead it down a direction where it got better. You know what I mean? And that was, for me, my favorite. Nice. My first one was my favorite.
Kessel, you're awfully quiet over there. What place did you enjoy visiting, and as far as the people?
I think Kessel.
Oh, he left.
I think we lost his.
He had a windstorm.
Oh, okay.
You saw in the background all the wind going on.
He got blown away.
Dude, yeah. The phone might have flown out of his hand. I'll go on small screen and see if he's trying to actually get back in. But Todd, how about you take one on this?
I mean, we've had a lot of really cool events over the years, with a lot of talent at those events. But probably my favorite one, actually, and this may sound odd, but it's actually in Hartford, Connecticut. We've gone there a bunch of years. The level is actually lower. There has yet to be a gal there that's been like a Cal Poly gal, or at that level. Um, is everyone on still or no?
Yeah, yeah. I wanted the audience to see you for
Sure.
a little bit. Then I'll go back
And
to this.
it's just the level is fairly low, but it's really from an area that for me is just trying to develop still. I mean, you guys you're from New York, you know the area well. Like beach volleyball is not crazy happening up there in Connecticut and New York and Maine, and I mean it's there, but there's no colleges yet that are there. And so when I saw these gals and guys too coming out and playing and just wanting to get better at beach, and I really enjoyed it actually. And the people there were great. Parents were awesome. But just helping to grow the game was really, really fun and enjoyable for me. And it wasn't so much about recruiting or anything like that. It literally was just growing the game in an area that I think, hopefully some college up there will adopt it and run with it. That would be awesome. And I think that would really give a huge boost. And then, the East Coast there, particularly up north. But until then, hopefully we can just keep going back and helping to grow the game in our small little way.
Well, some of the best beach players I ever played the game were indoor players because I mean, look, we trained like idiots back then. We did things to our body that just made us stop playing at 30 years old. And someone like Reed Pretty, who played till he was 38 and then hit the beach, I'm like, I don't know how the hell he did it, because Todd, we're almost the same age. We like the way we trained back then was not a survival thing, but I'm talking about like taking care of first hit, talking about the speed of the serve for indoor, talking about having to pass a specific target. So it's really no wonder that a lot of the best beach players were indoor players. So Todd, I mean, Connecticut, Sacred Heart, University out there. I forgot the coach he got. Poor guy got kicked out.
Yeah, Quinnipiac, right?
No, it was Bertucci. Yeah, it was Bob. Yeah. Bob smacked a kid upside the head and got fired. But some really good New Yorkers. Kevin Edwards played for the Trinidad national team. He built a beach facility in Queens, New York recently. So I just wanted to highlight him. Ruth Nelson, wherever you are, with Bring Your Own Parents Volleyball, man. How's that for like a mention? If you Todd, and you're old enough to remember him, go ahead. Your turn.
I was going to say Pat Ryan, who runs Connecticut Huskies, just one of the nicest people on the planet, and somebody who spent his whole life giving back, and now has just an unbelievably successful club. And one of the things I always liked about Pat, and he's got some very good players. He's put a bunch of indoor people into Division I. He's got a very robust boys program. He's got a very robust girls program. But when you run large clubs, it's not the kids who go Division I that pay your bills, because most kids don't go Division I. And right. Pat always made sure that his focus was not on the best kid, but the kid. And he ran his programs very much like that. And I think when you go up to Hartford or Windsor, Connecticut, which we'll be going to again soon, you walk in there and you feel that energy of every kid's, they're good kids. And that comes through the program. So when you go there, you're really happy to be working with kids who want to learn.
Yeah, I agree.
And every year it gets a little bit better, and we get some more good kids. And this year with USA Volleyball announcing that we are their beach educational partner, we're going to be doing an event in Denver with the regional commissioner is actually hosting us. We will have our largest ever coaching coaches clinic.
Yeah.
Todd's staffing for that one. We had 11 coaches sign up the first day just to get coached. So it's one of these virtuous cycles where things every year gets a little better. We do a few more cooler events. We have more regions reaching out to us. We have more big clubs reaching out to us. 210 has been a staple for us in terms of helping us grow and send our message out. It's just really been a fun thing. I wish I could tell you I had one place that I liked. I just have so many good or funny stories from so many of the different places.
What's the first one that came to your mind?
First one came into mind is we did one of our first Beach Nation events in Florida. So we had Phil Dalhouser and we had Nick, we had Todd, Brooke Niles. It was a wonderful group of people. We had Todd almost light a car on fire. Forgot to take off the parking brake. Anybody smell something? Anybody smell something? It's fine. No, I'm pretty sure the wheel's on fire. No, it's fine.
Todd, really, truly burning rubber, huh?
Burning a rubber. There's just Todd, and I think one of my favorite memories in volleyball is Todd and Phil holding hands. So they're passing with their outside arms, and they have to try to pass together. And just watching those two laughing maniacally as they're trying to work as one, and they're just kidding each other. He's telling me what to do again. Fish, help me. Yeah. Just so fun watching everybody have fun, and the kids just completely have the opportunity to play against Phil and Todd. So just fun. Just so many fun memories of good kids and amazing coaches. We've had so many coaches from so many programs.
And
Todd, if you had to
willing.
guess,
yeah.
Todd, if you had to guess, how many different schools have we had work with Beach Nation over the last 5 years?
Oh, geez. I don't know, 30?
Yeah.
Something like that.
From 2018 to the present, right? Wow.
So 30 top Division I coaches where kids have the opportunity to be seen, work with them, and we're doing it in their backyard. They don't have to spend the money traveling here with the hotel room. Think about how much money they're saving just in general, just to have us go there.
Nice. Got a text from John Kessel. He says, sorry, guys. We had a windstorm hit outside and inside, and we're feeding the staff that's working on the lodge of the Event Center Landscaping. So I had to jump off because I would have interfered with the sound of the podcast and had no place to hide right now. He looked like the guy looked like he was trying to hide. I mean, so I got to give him credit on that. All right. Some lightning. I hope all it went well. Hope everything goes well. Wow. So, go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the things that I really think we've been working on, and everybody's been just incredibly supportive, is this building brilliant futures aspect. Because Beach Nation kept doing charitable ideas. Beach Nation, at the end of this month, we're going to be working with the AVP. We're serving in a bunch of the pros, and we're going to be doing a Feed the Homeless.
Right.
So we'll be working with the LA Food Bank. We reached out to do a combined event with the AVP and the LA Rams, which hopefully will get done, but that'll be something in progress. Working with universities to have them with their outreach into their local communities, and then create an educational symposium so we can be a living lab, learning lab for the universities to how to optimize these programs. So this year our goal is to do 2 or 3 universities. Next year we'll try to add 5. The following year we'll try to add 10, so that we actually are a reason for corporations to help facilitate the growth of these young students.
Yeah, and here's the other thing that impressed me, Rich. Like you said, you had 11. Fish said you had 11 coaches come out for Colorado. Was that it? Colorado?
Or, First day we signed up 11 coaches.
And for me, I always say to the players, because I have these. Sometimes you have these onboarding meetings with clubs or whatever, but you got to say this about adult coaches too. One must participate in one's own salvation, right? Like, you want to help, you want to go out there and help, but who wants to show up and say, hey, I need help, or hey, I'm interested, or whatever. So I'm very, very happy that you can get 11 coaches in a region to come out that are saying, hey, I want to share knowledge, or to hell with that. I'm just, that's Todd. I'm going to assume I don't know anything. Just teach me. But you know what I'm saying? But I'm glad that there is this participatory thing to come with the coaches who we're all coach. We all know that can go another way. We all know someone's ego will be like, nah, thanks, but no thanks, So that's the thing, Todd. And I want to give this to Rich. How much you visit these regions? How much these regions? Sorry, excuse me. How much do coaches want to chat with you about teams, about growth mindset versus positive reinforcement versus tough love versus just tips on how to be a better coach and just sharing ideas?
I mean, I've been to several of the Beach Nation, and I've participated in a few of the coaches' clinics where I was actually one of the trainers. And what I found is people's willingness to learn and to take what they have and hear what you have to offer, and then trying to find how those connect, and then where it leads to. You know, none of us have the absolute 100% best way to do anything. Right. You can always get better. You can always change. And from year to year, it certainly does. I think for myself, and then it was highlighted by Mark, and why I'm actually here doing all of this is I want to be able to make a difference. Nice. And that's, I think, what Beach Nation and the different companies that we're working along these lines is to make a real difference. And that's what matters to me. You know, I'd like this to change people's lives in a direction that you can actually look at and go, wow, we changed lives. Yeah. You know, so
and I think I speak for all four of us. There's nothing in the world like coaching a kid, whether it's college, whether it's high school and club, and then they're off someday. You know, you see them 10 years from whatever, they got a real job, right? Unlike us, this ain't a real job for me. This is just me talking ash and coaching and having a good time. But to have a kid that comes up to you 10 years from now and says, hey, I remember you, you know, thank you. Like, they are forever associated with you because of that. Like, that picture, there's a picture Todd can't see, but there's a picture behind the wall, the first year at LAVBC. Now, I've been coaching 27 years, but this first year at LAVBC, the special group of girls that couldn't even serve the bottom of the tape or serving aces at 24, they're going to remember that. And they're going to remember the coach that's associated with that. And they remember the coach that didn't break them down or that much. I'll say that much, because I'm not the positive, I'm not the growth mindset coach. I'm just not. I have a little bit of that, but Todd, I wanted to go to you and Mark on this one. Because you were talking about like height not being that much of a difference for Beach and this and that. And I'd like to shape my question like this, so please be patient with me. Bear with me, but don't get undressed. Talk to Bruce White, right? New Orleans. You guys know him? White Sands. Really good guy. I was doing a documentary called Club Coach last year, which is going to come out hopefully soon. And Bruce White and I agreed on something very, very important. Because sometimes in club, these coaches, they line up these kids against the wall. You're tall, you're short, you're not going to be that. Forget that. You're not going to be a middle. You're not going to, you're not going to be this and that. And Bruce White said something really, really important. And you guys can interrupt me or take the floor when you get see where I'm getting at. Bruce said, look a kid in the eye and tell that kid, never let anyone tell you what you can and can't do. He says, I'm going to be realistic. If you're 5'10" and you want to be an outside hitter, it's not going to be fair. You're going to have to run 150 meters for the 100-meter dash. You are going to be looked at impulsively and instinctively by coaches and be like, oh, I'm not tall enough. But if this is what you want, these are my assistant coaches. That's the box jump. Those are the steps. This is our training and being best passer. Let's get to work. So how, I guess, given the age, how much of an emphasis, because Todd pretty much answered this question, but I guess I want to talk about it more. How much of an emphasis do you tell kids as far as the reality of what people are looking for versus the conflicting forces of what coaches are looking for versus what the kid wants? Did I go too long? Okay.
Well, I always try to have a good dose of reality. What you were telling, Bruce is like, hey, don't let someone tell you, what you can or cannot do. But make sure we're taking a look at the whole picture. Don't look at only one little piece of it. Look at the whole picture. And you're right. If you're maybe it's 5'10" outside hitter, which is crazy to me that 30 years ago, that was probably your average size outside hitter. But now that would be really, really small outside hitter, especially at a D1 school, right? But that doesn't mean you can't be that person. I mean, I remember watching Pitt indoor play. I can't remember if it was the finals or semifinals a couple of years ago. And they had a guy on the outside that was 5'8", jumped out of the freaking gym in a cannon of an arm. I'm like, wow, she's pretty amazing. So you can be that. But like you kind of mentioned, you have to put together some other things, i.e. a great arm swing, major jump, maybe really, really, really good vision when you're playing. So I am a big believer in, being realistic. The fun part about working with coaches, kids at Beach Nation or any kids in general, is a lot of them are still growing. And so there might be the 5 foot kid.
Yeah. Sorry, that was the point I was making. Go ahead.
You don't know, especially you just, if they're 25 years old, probably we're all done growing by 25. But when the kid's 15, 12, 10, like, you don't know, it could be a 5 foot kid and you're going, yeah. And if you just kind of cut them off as being, you have no shot because you're 5 foot right now. Well, maybe they are a late growth spurt kid, or maybe there's a lot of height in their family. They didn't get the height, but they got the length. I got a kid that's 5'9" on my team, maybe, who reaches the second highest on my team at Cal Poly, because she's got incredible length. We'll do it from her arms. Her grandfather is 6'8". It's just that she's 5'8", but has the reach of like a 6'1", 6'2" gal.
She's had to do high fives at a young age.
Exactly. I try and always put that dose of reality in there. And then also, I'm also a big fan, and this is what's great on the beach, is like, you need to learn all the skills anyway. So we're not going to pigeonhole you into anything. And now you get the opportunity you can block, you can defend, you can serve, you pass, you got to do it all. So learn it all now. And then if they do become the 5 footer to the 6'6" kid, and then all of a sudden they have all the skill sets to be able to be good at whatever position on the beach.
Yes. Go ahead, Mark.
You take a look at basketball, men's professional basketball. The pyramid's pretty wide at the top. If you're on a professional team, you're making a lot of money. In beach volleyball, it's not true. It's a very, very small group of people who really make a lot of money. And by NBA standards, none of them make a lot of money. You can make more money through endorsements and contracts, but it's usually based off of excellence and proven excellence. So I have had the pleasure over the last couple of years of having the ability to work with several Olympians, as well as a lot of second-tier players. They come out of college and they say, I want this position. Okay, well, in college, those shots scored. On the FIVB World Tour, they don't. If you can't jump high enough, if you can't create enough angles. And then people will say, well, what about, Misty was only 5'9", or Todd's only 6'2". Well, Karch was only 6'3".
Right. Yeah.
But Todd, I once made the mistake of saying Todd was the best attacker in the world for 9 years. And Todd very quickly cut me off and said, no, I was never the best. I was never the best hitter. I was the best attacker.
Right.
So people say, well, gee, I want to do what he did. And I go, okay, well, you reached 10.6 and he reached 11.5. So you have to be a good enough athlete to create those angles. You have to be fast enough. You have to have those other skills, because it's the exceptional athlete who can be smaller and still be able to play at that world level. And sometimes you have to have difficult dialogues with people where you have to try to have them be the best you can be. But if that's your only goal, if you're only going to be satisfied because you go to the Olympics, we don't send a lot of people to the Olympics. And the people we send to the Olympics frequently are just better athletes. They work just as hard and they can create better angles.
Yeah, well, the skill set is tight too.
Look,
if you want to talk about, Todd and I had a conversation about second-class athletes and first-class athletes. I remember that conversation all the way back from 2019, Todd. And I can't disagree more. Well, first of all, I'm going to disagree with Todd on one thing. First of all, Mr. Professor, I kept growing after 25 years old. Last time I checked, round is the shape, all right? So I keep growing wider as we speak. So you need to stop lying to the American people that you stopped growing at around 25 years old, all right? So that's a lie. I'm going to win that battle. Second, I coached Jeff Samuels, right, at Huntington. He played the 3 gnarliest qualifier matches, including Sam Schachter to get in, and I sent him a video on Qatar. Not because they're both black, but because the way Ahmed and Sharif don't cut corners on their actual skill set. Like, I live in Hermosa Beach, Todd and Rich, all right? And I can go out any morning and watch the men practice and the women practice, and I can watch an American male player run to the net and side set, right? But then you watch Ahmed, and you see Ahmed's first step is big, and he uses the second move. Sometimes we frown on that, but he uses the second move to square his shoulders to the pole. They don't. So skill set wise, they're not cutting corners. So I do buy into the caveat that we're not sending our most elite athletes, but come on, coaches, do your freaking job, dude. Why are you not saying nothing about that, dude? And Todd, and I'm saying this in front of Mark Fishman's face. Mark, I go out there and I watch that guy practice. No way Mark lets someone get away with that. No way. I mean, they just look at Mark like, oh man, he's gonna say something. So for the men, since we brought it up, because I was talking about girls, but we were also talking about boys. For the men, get some coaches who are not playing glorified babysitter. Get off your behind and do some real work. Second, stop cutting corners. Yeah, how are you going to know if you're better or not if these elite athletes overseas are not cutting corners and you are?
If you want to run a strategy, I want to be able to run a spread offense second option. But my passing isn't good enough. My setting's not good enough. The reality is you have to have the skill set first to be able to run the strategies that you want to run. Otherwise, you just make a lot of mistakes and you lose.
Right. So, do you know what the biggest oxymoron in volleyball is? Predictable deception. Predictable deception. You're doing this like you're fooling nobody. You're not fooling nobody. They watch video on you, dude. It's a professional sport. It's not like, oh, we didn't see that last week when we scrimmaged you. Yeah, a year later, I'm getting fooled by the same thing. No, it's the coaching is superior. It's a copycat league. More people are living in a video room like a hermit. And the only reason why guys like Todd and Joe and you haven't picked it up as much is because the women all year round are spending an entire year not cutting corners, right? We have, to me, it's a two-horse race to the Olympics. I like TKN and I like Chang and Flint. But let me tell you something. These girls that have come out of the college that last for 5 years, and Todd, right? We had this conversation in 2018, like the boom period of these ridiculously good players that were coming out. I was like, wow, man, there's going to be like 4 disappointed teams that aren't going to be in the Olympics. I'm like, this is how Brazil feels all the time. So, Mark, something you wanted to add. You were going to say something.
I think you were going to say Chang and Sarah Hughes.
Yeah, sorry, not Flint, Hughes. Right.
But yeah, and it's fun because when you watch what they do every day and you watch how hard they work every day, you know there's a reason they're there.
Yep.
Not only are they elite athletes, but they don't stop working.
Todd, like, is correlation causation in this one case that the last Olympics, both women's indoor and beach won the gold?
There's a good argument for that.
He's like, you're not getting me to answer that for real on camera. I don't know how much time you guys got. I wanted to do a lightning round before we get out of here. And you guys know I can talk all day, but please let me know towards the end so we don't leave right away. I have like these.
Let's get Joe first so we can get some info on this.
Yeah, Joe.
I just wanted to actually go back to your original question, which was about the metrics of being an athlete, or the height versus athleticism versus being a better volleyball player. Kess said it really nicely that beach volleyball is about being great at beach volleyball. And you can overcome a lot of those things by being a better volleyball player than the person you're going against. Is it advantageous to be taller? 100%. Is that a metrics that matters? Yes. And it's an easy one for a coach to judge. You're 6'3". You're going to have advantages over somebody that is 5'7". The answer to that is, okay, is that 5'7" a bigger athlete? Maybe. Okay, that's another metrics. The final metrics, which I think is very important, especially if we're not talking about elite, because that's where being a better volleyball player meets being a better athlete as well as. But let's talk about everybody else.
Gotcha.
Let's talk about everybody else.
Let's do it.
Being a better volleyball player will bring you success at many of the levels over just being a better athlete. And I think for the majority of the people out there, learning the game in Beach Nation as well as how we coach and our style really emphasizes that. Because we're not making the greatest volleyball players in the world. We're making people to compete at certain levels, and we want them to have success in the sport.
Yep.
And use what they have, their God-given abilities, and amplify that with a better technique.
Yeah. Like, think about this. Like, Todd, Todd didn't hide behind Phil to win a gold, right? Phil wasn't optioning back then. He had to be a side-out machine. Bruno Oscar Schmidt, who's graciously listed at 6 feet tall, right? With a guy with one of the last bump setters in the sport, won a gold in Rio. So I totally get what you're saying. And you weren't talking about elite. You were talking
I'd
about
rather talk about
the
Maricosta or whatever, Sac State or every. Are they the best they can be? And are we helping them get to that point?
That's always the question. Even if you answer, you ask it again the next morning and the morning after that and the morning after that.
So I had the luxury of working with Skylar Gurman for a while, and she decided to leave Long Beach, and she is now just picked up with, she's going to go to FSU. Fantastic athlete, great teammate, wonderful person. 5'9".
Mm-hmm.
Every major school was recruiting her. 5'9". The point is, in beach volleyball, you can be 5'9", and you can get recruited from an FSU or USC or whatever the schools are that are recruiting you. You can go to Cal Poly, an incredibly good university.
Right.
You can also, an East Coast, West Coast, the fastest growing Division I sport in the United States. So it gives you the opportunity to be an excellent volleyball player. And to me, your goal should be as an athlete to be limited. You don't want to be limited by how good of an athlete you are. You want to become the best volleyball player, the best student of that game you can. And that's, you want to end up in that balance of I'm being the best volleyball player I can and using my athleticism to the very best of its ability. You're just not supposed to just rely on just being the best athlete in the gym. That's usually a bad way to go. Eventually you find somebody who's better trained and worked harder.
Because that's what happens. That's what he's talking about. Yep. As levels change, that's what Rich was talking about. As levels change, sooner or later you're going to run into someone who jumps the same way, same athleticism.
But who cares
about
that?
And what do you have to fall back on? That's the question, right? What does that person have to fall back on, and what do you have to fall back on?
Oh, that's why they call him the professor. Because last time I checked, for about 9 years, I don't remember Phil getting served very much.
No, it had to be him. It had to
Which
be him to be creative, like he's the best attacker.
He had to be the best passer. So because when you're 6'3", you needed the ball in a window.
Yeah.
And then he had to be the best attacker, not just the best hitter, because there's always going to be a better hitter.
Right. Let's talk about skill set a little bit. I'm going to go around the room. What's one of the fundamentals, as far as the 6 fundamentals, passing, digging, setting, blocking, serving, hitting? What fundamental do you find comes easier? I'll just give you a random age. You guys coach 14s or 15s?
I have in the past.
At Beach Nation, do you have 14s or 15s?
Yes.
What's the skill set that comes easiest to some of the kids? Is it first hit? Is it digging?
I would say passing for me.
Yeah.
And for me, it's the kind of the fundamental of my thought process of beginning the chain of events that leads to attacking. Obviously serving is the first piece, but
right.
I ignore that to most part, and I usually start with passing as my first intent.
Todd?
I'd have to agree with Joe. It's passing. It's something that I think they do to start off with every time. You watch them just take a ball. What do?
Right.
They start passing.
Yeah. You would have thought you two coach at the same school or something. Mark?
We agree. It's the most common action they do, and they figure out pretty quickly how to keep the ball in the general direction of their partner.
What about the most difficult? What's something you guys consider from a large number of players tough sledding?
You're talking about of the pillars. I would say blocking on the women's side is probably the most difficult thing because there's kind of what we call art involved in it, which is gained through actual repetition of doing things properly. But I think blocking is the hardest things for at least me to see success in a short period of time.
Right.
To me,
Mark?
it's eye sequence.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes across every one of the skill sets.
All right, Todd?
If you had asked me 6 years ago, I would have said hand setting because hardly anything. They didn't hand set.
Not anymore, right? They're all doing it.
And now I think with just the advent of all the fantastic club coaches that are out there, and of course colleges really pushing hand setting now no longer. So I tend to agree with these guys. I think blocking, and I also think polling.
Yeah.
Pulling super important, and it's a. I find very few people are good blockers or good pullers coming out of high school.
Yeah, that really, to me, pulling really depends on the athlete, right? There are different techniques. Like I saw Sharif doing something called like a dip and pull. He goes down, shows you the entire top of the tape. You think he's coming back up, boom, he's pulling, right? But you're not going to do that with Phil. He's stiff as a board, right? So, for me, since I'm a coach too, and I want to add, the most difficult thing is the serve. It's the serve, guys. It is serve to space. It is who to serve and when. It is you telling your player to serve a location, but to serve the speed of the location where it's not an easy serve, right? Tell someone to serve position 1. If you serve a lollipop, and if they can make 2 moves to pass it, even midline it, then it's not an effective serve anymore. So, game's tied. Do I go tough? Am I in this situation where I'm hitting or missing, or do I keep it in play and wait for them to make a mistake first? And we were caveating 14s and 15s or whatever, but I can make an argument for every single level. Sure. All the way from the kids, from the 9-year-olds serving 25-0 to the Russian national team in the finals trying to ace the French. I only brought that up because I think the French had 0 reception errors. That's why they won that 5th set and they won the gold. So I think they had 0 receiving errors against the best serving team in the world. So that's how that's done. So pretty cool, guys. All right, so guys, let's. Mark, is there anything else you want to talk about before I do this lightning round?
Let's go, Joe.
Am I lightning first?
You're lightning first.
No, I'm going around the room. These are quick questions, and we go around the room. Let's put it up.
You're safe, Joe.
He is safe.
Thank you.
All right, let's find out which one is which. And there they are. All right, so let's go lightning round. I usually have a 60-second countdown clock, but camera 4 right now is Todd Rogers, so I'm going to have to edit that in. Let's start with Rich. Favorite comedian?
Adam Sandler.
Go.
Kevin Hart.
Todd?
Oh, yeah, Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy. Nice. I'll go
Hilarious.
Chappelle. Last good book you read?
Stranger in a Strange Land. Just reread it.
Nice.
Hunt for Red October.
Nice. I read that. Dude, Todd?
Boys in the Boat.
Boys in the Boat. I'm not this avid reader, but the last good book I read, I got a lot of good books behind you. Scars and Stripes was Tim Kennedy, but the last good book, Unbroken by Laura Hildebrand. The World War II, the Zamprini story. Marvel or DC, guys? I'll go first. Marvel.
Marvel.
Nice. Pool or beach?
Beach.
Pool.
Beach. Only because I live in Hermosa. If I lived in Playa, it'd be pool. That place is dumb. Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter?
Lord of the Rings.
That's an easy one. Lord of the Rings.
Nice. Bourbon, vodka, tequila?
Tequila.
Bourbon.
Vodka. Favorite sport outside of volleyball?
Football.
Football.
Mixed martial arts. Favorite action film star growing up?
Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's easy.
Arnold. I go Arnold.
Yeah.
He's a god.
Todd trying to be different. Todd knows he wants Arnold.
Come on, it's Arnold.
It's tough to go against.
You will
Arnold.
lose. You will
lose.
Him or Clint Eastwood.
That was
I know. No,
that was Drago.
Yeah, that's true. I'll be back. That's right.
Come on, Todd. I need your clothes and your cartridges and your motorcycle.
We'll go with Arnie.
I like that. Favorite sports talk show. So that'll be pass or we'll name one. I liked First Take, but that's been I don't watch it anymore.
I honestly don't watch.
Nah.
I'm going with you. You're about the last
pass.
one I listened to.
Yeah. Oh, it's favorite sports talk show. Let's go the option, guys.
There we
That's
go.
me.
There you go. You're up.
You're in.
You're number 1 now.
Cool. So guys, before we go, let's plug in where people want to know a little bit more about Beach Nation, what you guys are up to. Perhaps plug in your Insta, plug in your website, and Mark, you go first. You lead.
Okay, beachnation.net. You need a net in volleyball.
Yep.
We could not have been here if it wasn't for the JVA. could not be here without Wilson, without Citibank, without USA Volleyball. We've had so many people who have been willing to help us, and just go the extra mile when they realize what we're trying to do. Just can't say thank you enough to those people.
Nice. Rich?
I would say the Beach Nation team. It's a wonderful group of people to work with. I've learned as a coach so much and as a person. So I have a special thanks to everybody on the team.
Yeah, well, you deserve it. You're just a really good coach. I met you in 2018, and we had so much fun. It wasn't just karaoke and singing and getting drunk. It was some great conversations with volleyball.
Yeah.
Because in the summer we'd have screaming matches, like in private. We would, as far as sharing new ideas. I will never tell you guys fully about that. Todd.
Just hope that people get out there. We'll be in Denver on June 22nd, and Connecticut 28th and 29th of June, and then down your neck of the woods, Hermosa, on July 11th. I'm hopefully that some people hear this and want to come out.
Yeah.
Can I just
please go ahead.
I just want to say thank you to obviously Todd and Patty Dodd, who helped us create this.
Yeah.
Brooke Niles, who was so instrumental in the beginning. And the people who are with us now, which is April Ross, John Spera,
right,
Jenny Hahn, who's at the JVA, who is just one of the most amazing people in my life, Ryan Jabara, who's the CMO at Citibank, who what he's done for para-Olympians and what he's done for para-athletes is just, you can't say enough. John Kessel.
Yeah.
Literally a
Thanks for
legend.
dropping in, John. You're the man.
He is the man.
Yeah. I really appreciate that guy.
Al Lau at the AVP, because the work they're doing with us, from feeding the homeless to running events to having us in the beginning make sure that we had a home. Can't say thank you enough. Chrissy Jones, who has always helped keep us in the middle of the stream.
Class personified.
Class personified. People don't realize some of the challenges she had, and she's always met just class. Like you said, class personified, just shares grace. Blake Russ from Wilson. Every time we've needed something for kids, everything, at the end of the year, we gave away $12,000 of equipment. We did a giveaway to clubs in need and people in need, and Blake was literally the first guy who said, how do I help? We have a woman, Diane Peronich, who's been on our board and has brought us Trevor Noah, and a variety of other just amazing resources for the education, for the board, how to grow it, how to organize it. Beth Van Fleet,
right,
Georgia State, just amazing. Kristen Rohr, now at ASU, same thing. Just two amazing coaches, two amazing people who always bring us just grace and hard work. And Joe Rich, obviously to my right. And Joe, you have just been one of the most hardworking and diligent people. You've been a great friend. And my best friend, Todd Rogers, who just, again, I can't say thank you enough for the leadership and the friendship. So none of this happens without this amazing team. And Joe, you said it well, just an amazing team. And Jason, thank you for having us here today.
No, the pleasure's all mine. And since I got this rock star full of attraction and viewership, Todd, I'm going to Aspen. I'm going to Motherlode Labor Day weekend. So I just wanted to use this time for like any audience member that we're looking for like a media group to broadcast it for us. Like I'm looking at Varsity Sports Now from New Orleans. So Randy and I are going to do color commentary for the whole weekend. So they were looking for me to do it off my handle on YouTube, but I want, we have investors, and I want like a media group to come in and see if they can come in and do it. Just do it more properly than me. I'm not that like this tech guy. I did this on my own just so I could survive and just so I can meet people. I kind of did what I had to do, but I'm not, you're right, I'm not the expert at this. Todd, right? We volleyball players, we have to become experts, right? Todd's like, I'm not a doctor. It's like, yes, you are. Congratulations, you're an Avenger. Go heal this guy. So, yeah.
So let's get some of these tech gurus out here to help our boy.
Yeah, for Aspen. It's a beautiful place. It's like freaking Germany or
favorite
Amsterdam
tournament.
meets Santa Fe. It's like Amsterdam, except everyone speaks English. You know, and, yeah, because winter it's ski land, but
I went to the Motherlode tournament several times. I really enjoyed it.
and I was there last year. I was emceeing for the first time. I've never emceed before, but you know, I got mad skills, so I did it. Todd, before we go, a little story about Chrissy Jones. Atlantic City. What's that guy's name? Josh Glazebrook, right? I'm calling court 1. Josh Glazebrook, 60 seconds before the match starts. He's like, Chrissy Jones is going to be known by her married name for this match. And I'm like, sure, okay, cool. What is it? He goes, I'm going to put the camera on me for a second. He goes, definitely got it. Shunderword. And I go, what? He goes, Shunderword. And I go, can you spell that for me? And he goes, nope. SHSCHOONDEROARD. Her husband, Marine, two-time Afghan vet. So big up to Chrissy Jones. Big up to her husband,
Max,
right?
Semper Fi.
Yes. Big up to Todd, the Professor Rogers. I'm so glad you came on the show, Mark. I'm so glad to have you guys on the show. And Rich, something you don't know is that these guys mentally prepared to be on 3 hours, so they're not going to know what the hell to do when we get off the air. They're like, wait, it's like Todd knows these are lengthy, so Todd prepared to be on longer. So he's like, maybe I can go eat or something. But guys, for Joe Rich, for Mark Fishman, for Todd Rogers, I'm Jason DeBeas. This is episode 179 of the Option Podcast. I think it is. I don't know. It might be 180. But for now, we're out. Come check out the Option Podcast on optionvb.com. It's also available on iTunes and Spotify and on YouTube under the NY Varsity Sports handle. You're going to love what you hear.